What's up guys, Mike Thomas, aka the Young Trishula here, and today, just a few minutes ago actually, I finished within the top 16 of the largest Master Duel tournament to date. The tournament was put on by both Pack and Farfa in partnership with Metafy, who we do coach for, by the way, so check us out on Metafy at metafy.gg/Trishula, and the whole event was live streamed on Twitch over on Farfa and Pack's stream. Now, I mentioned that this was the largest Master Duel tournament to date. So the tournament was a 3v3 tournament with 310 teams or 930 players. The format was best of one, but as a team event, it was best 2 of 3 between 3 players. I think that's actually a really great way to get around the fact that not every player has the ability to craft a full main, side, and extra for Master Duel. So I think that's a really good way to get around that for the competitive format. So maybe we'll see more of these 3v3 events in the future, but I just wanted to talk about this event and the list that I played because we did come in the top 16 of the event. We finished 12th place after Swiss, and we actually could have proceeded on to top 8. However, one of my teammates unfortunately lost in top 16 due to the turn timer. Their computer was a little bit slow, and they had set up a pretty unlosable board state against Eldritch in a really deep grind game, but they only had a few seconds left on the clock, so they moved to their end phase and they just got bombarded with prompts from Zeus and GG, and in trying to tell the game, no, I don't want to activate these effects, I just want to get to my next turn so that I don't lose to the turn timer ticked down and they lost, unfortunately, in the prompt screens. So really unfortunate that happens, but it's part of the game, and you know, my teammates played very well this weekend. I'm very happy with how all of us did, and you know, this event was a lot of fun. So let's hop into our deck lists. I'll provide my teammates deck lists as well, but this will primarily be a tournament report from my perspective and going over my deck list as well as my top 16 match, because I think you guys should stick around and see that because it was an absolute crazy match, just absolutely crazy. GG's to my opponent. So let's hop right into the deck profile. Okay, so hopping into the deck profile, I'm gonna have to do this a little bit weird because of how Master Duel arranges my deck, so I'm not gonna go in order. I'm sorry if that bothers you, but I'm gonna break down the deck based on, you know, kind of like our starters, our extenders, and then get into our defensive cards. Apologies if it feels like I'm jumping all over the place, but I don't know how to reorder decks in Master Duel. I don't think you can, but if you can, let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, let's hop straight into the deck profile. So we did play Dragon Link for this event. I wanted to play a deck that I knew very, very well, the deck that I felt like I would not misplay with, and Dragons obviously is a deck that I've had a lot of competitive success with in the past, so it's a deck I'm very comfortable with, and it was also a deck that I had already built on Master Duel on an account that had a lot of super rare and ultra rare credits still, because I did need to change a few cards before getting into the event. So I was happy to queue up with this deck. I didn't really have time to make a fresh account and to make a deck specifically for this event, so I just went with what I had and what I knew. So to start off with the Rocket engine, we played 3 Tracer, 2 Synchron, 1 Recharger. This is a pretty standard ratio, very similar to what you would see in the current TCG metagame. And we played 1 Absol Router as well. We didn't play multiple copies of Absol Router because we're already playing a lot of cards that we don't necessarily want to draw in our opening hand. So just to give ourselves a little bit more flexibility, we played only the 1 Absol Router because we don't want to brick on too many big monsters in our hand. For our starters, we played 3 Safer. Safer obviously always being the heart and soul of Dragon Link. It is one of the best cards in the deck. Then coming to another card that I don't think that you can ever cut in Dragon Link, at least not in pure Dragon Link, is Nocto Vision Dragon. We played 3 copies of Nocto. Now, Nocto is a little bit worse on Master Duel than it is in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, and the reason for that is because Master Duel uses the OCG rules for trigger effects in hand. So how Noctovision would work is if I were to summon my Striker Dragon and go Chainlink 1, my opponent has an opportunity to respond to the Chainlink 1 Striker Dragon before I can activate the Noctovision. Noctivision Dragon. So Noctivision doesn't actually chain block in the same way that it does in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. However, Noctivision Dragon is still basically Pot of Greed for this deck. It gives you a free body and a free draw. So you invest basically no cards and you get a free draw. So this card still just a easy 3 of include. And funnily enough, the way that the OCG rules work actually came up for me in the tournament as a benefit rather than a hindrance. I summoned my Striker Dragon and my opponent chained Max C to my Striker Dragon effect to add Boot Sector, and because of that it passed priority back to me and I was able to actually chain Noctivision to the Max C and allow myself to special summon that Noctivision without giving my opponent a draw, which was a really neat interaction that I thought was really funny. So definitely play 3 Noctivision. I think this card's really good. I don't think I would cut it down. It's also really nice to have more level 7s in the deck because they combo with the Seifert, allowing us to add either the Noctivision by sending the Absoraptor or potentially sending the Noctivision, say we draw 2, to add Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Frisian. Now, this is a card that in the current Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, I like this card in Dragon Link, but I know a lot of people don't. I think that Destrudo is a very interesting card, and I think it's a lot better in Master Duel Dragon Link because in Master Duel you need to put a lot more bodies on the field in order to end up on your full combo. So having Destrudo there as a way to get extra bodies into play when you need to get a lot of cards into play before using your Tracer effect, I think is really important and really strong. I played Destrudo for this event. It definitely came up for me quite a bit. I used this card in almost half the games that I played, so very good card. Now, for the other uncuttable cards that I kind of skipped over, we do play the 2 White Dragon Wyver Bursters and 2 Black Dragon Collapse Serpents. Now, there are different ratios of these that you can play. You, of course, could play 1-1, though I don't think that you should play 1-1 in Master Duel because of how powerful these cards are. You could also play 3-1 because the Collapse Serpent is not the best one to draw. You'd rather see the Wyver Burster most of the time. But I decided to play 2-2 because I wanted to give the deck a little bit more of a grind game, and the reason behind 2 Collapse Serpent is that if you start with Seifert specifically, you have to add Collapse Serpent to your hand, and whichever baby you start on is also the baby you end on. So if you have at least 2 copies of each in your deck, it will be essentially like you started with Chaos Space, because you will always end up back with a baby in your hand that you can then use as a free discard for something like a Dragon's Ravine, or use it as follow-up on your next turn. Starting my next turn off with, I like this ratio a lot. Maybe in the future I would consider playing 3 Wyver Burster, 2 Collapse Serpent, or even 3-1. Then to finish off the dragons, we had the 3 clunkier one-ofs. Obviously we played the 1 Chaos Dragon Levianeer because this card is kind of like the boss monster of the deck. It allows you to pop 2 or shuffle a card from the opponent's hand back into the deck, so it makes it very good going either first or second. You definitely can't play this deck without it. We played the 1 Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. I'm going to talk about this one for a second because even though this theory is kind of old, I still get people asking me about it a lot. And even though this deck does not play Black Metal Dragon, we do want to play Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon because this is how the deck is able to play through a Nibiru very effectively. So you can set up your seals in your extra monster zone, do however much you want to do your combos, do whatever. And if your opponent Nibirus you, you can trigger the seals, summon out the Red MD from your deck, use Red MD to get back into like a Tracer, or even better, summon back a Hot Red if you've already set it up. But if you haven't set up the Hot Red, you can get back that Tracer, go into Quad Boral Dragon and still make a Savage Dragon, or make whatever it is that you still can make. Sometimes you can make an IP with it, but it allows you to just still set up a board through Nibiru, which is so important. You're definitely doing something wrong if you're not playing this card with or without the Black Metal in your deck. Finally, we then played the Brick, the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, which is kind of the win condition of the deck. You're able to equip this card because it is a Dark Dragon to basically anything in your deck using Union Carrier, and it will lock your opponent out of the extra deck and gives you such a strong win condition. So This card is very, very powerful and is more or less how I won most of my games. And I definitely don't think that this deck would be competitively viable or as competitively viable without the Dragon Buster Union Carrier lock. Now, Dragon Link isn't the only deck that plays the Buster lock in it. The very popular Adamancipator strategy is known to play this. However, I think that this Buster lock is actually a bit better in Dragon Link, specifically because the Buster Whelp itself is a dragon monster. It is a dark dragon, so you are able to just normal summon it and go into Striker Dragon and just play your turn normally using the Dragon Buster if you do draw it and it is your only summonable monster. I prefer it here because at least it synergizes with the deck on a fundamental level rather than just being the Garnet that you have to play in order to achieve the Buster lock. Now for the defensive cards, we played 3 Max C, 2 Gamma Driver, and 3 Dark Ruler No More. To talk about these quickly, obviously you play 3 Max C because it's Max C. This is the best card in the game, best card ever printed. 2 Psyframe Gear Gammas. Now this card didn't come up for me too much in the tournament. I only drew it when I was going second one time, and that was in my top 16 match, which you will see later in the video. But when I did go first and drew this card, my hands would have lost to something like an Ash Blossom or a Max C. So I was really glad that I drew this card, and even though my opponents did not have those in those games, I was glad that I had it. And this card also provided me an answer to VFD, which was nice and appreciated in this deck. So overall, I think I would continue to play the Gamma going forward. I think it synergizes so well with the deck, protecting your 2 best starters, and if your opponent does play into it, they just immediately get punished and will probably lose because you can go straight into something like a Chaotic Ruler, mill 5 cards, and just go so plus that these cards are just insane. Also, the fact that it can't be normal, Gamma cannot be normal summon set, allows you to set up for a Chaos Space in weird scenarios. This card just has so much synergy with the deck. It's so good. I think you have to play it. Now, for the more dubious of the defensive cards, we played 3 Dark Ruler No More in the main deck, and the reason for this was, as this was a best of 1 event for each individual player, I wanted to have a kind of a blowout card against combo decks in my main deck because I didn't want to rely on just having to draw multiple hand traps, especially when a lot of combo decks have the ability to play stuff like Crossout Designator and Call by the Grave, and a lot of them are really encouraged to in Master Duel because of the presence of Max C. So I wanted something like Dark Ruler No More where I could just turn off my opponent's entire board and then, you know, just play freely into their board and just kind of set up on them. Dark Ruler came up for me surprisingly more than I expected it to in the event. I played against a lot of Tri-Brigade Zodiac, so it wasn't the best card in my deck, but there were definitely games that were not winnable without this card. This card came in really clutch for me. I'm really glad that I played it, and I think that when you're playing in best of 1 kind of scenarios, having these blowout cards that your opponent just might not be respecting are so important. And you know, there were times that I thought that maybe I would have wanted Namiru or Valor, but I think that for this event, I think this was the correct card to play. Then just briefly going over the spell cards, they're pretty standard. We played the 3 Chaos Space because they searched the babies and the Levianeer. We played the 3 Quick Launch because it is emergency teleport for dragons. Played the 2 field spells because you kind of have to. And then we did play 3 World Legacy Guard Dragon. This is the only thing in these spell cards that maybe you might not see in every Dragon Link list. I like playing the World Legacy Guard Dragons in Master Duel because, as I believe I mentioned before, you have to put up so many bodies before using your Tracer effect in this variant of Dragon Link in order to establish your Union Carrier lock. I like having the World Legacy Guard Dragon because it kind of eliminates the need for a couple bodies and more or less just gives you your Union lock for free. So I like just opening this card. Also, it combos really well with Halki Fibrax. Anytime that I have a Dragon Tuner plus World Legacy Guard Dragon, I know that I am Dragon comboing, so I liked having this card in my deck. I think I would continue to play it. I think these are a little bit better than playing something like the Dragon Maid package, at least in Master Duel, because I think this deck with the Buster lock in it is so strong when you go first already that the Dragon Maid package is just a little bit too slow. Mystic Mind's not in the game, so we don't need an inherent out to it, and really I think the only thing that the Chamber Tidying package is doing for us at this point is just giving us something to beat like Imperial Order over the course of a few turns, maybe to beat Skill Drain. Other than that, I don't think it's really all that helpful. Now, moving on to the extra deck, this will be pretty fast. Not too much to talk about because everything's pretty standard. We played the Savage, the Papega, and the Hot Red, the 3 synchros that you, of course, have to play in Dragon Link. We played the 1-Guard Dragon Pisty because LP and Agripane are banned. We played the 3 Striker Dragon, obviously the single-handedly one of the best cards in the Dragon Link extra deck. So powerful, being not only a Link 1, but also a Monster Reborn when combined with Rocket Recharger. So really strong card, definite 3 of in the deck. Then, interestingly, we played 1 Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. So it's been a while since playing 1 Spheres was correct in the TCG. However, in Master Duel, because you have that Union Carrier lock, you are usually not grinding out your games unless your opponent is just playing Eldritch, or your opponent has, you know, the absolute stones against you and is somehow able to break your full board when you set it up. I think that just playing 1 seal is fine. I never needed to go into a second seal because, as I mentioned, we're not really grinding out games anymore with Dragon Link. This is a very much a you win on turn 1 kind of combo version of Dragon Link, so I think 1 seals was totally fine for the event. Never wanted more than it. We played the 1 copy of Halki Fibrax. I don't think I actually summoned this at all during the tournament, but this card is really strong. As I mentioned, with World Legacy Guard Dragon, anytime that you see a Dragon Tuner, you know that you can full combo if you have that World Legacy Guard Dragon because of Halki Fibrax. You know, I definitely think it was correct to play this card, even though I don't think I summoned it during the event. Then we played the Dragoonian Knight Romulus, which obviously searches Dragon Ravine, definitely one of the best cards in the deck. We played Quadboral Dragon, which is one of the best cards in the deck, especially in this metagame when there's so much Tri-Zoo running around. This card absolutely destroys Tri-Brigade Zodiac, just being able to pop their Shurag or their Rugal or a Apollo that has been negated and just summon back as many of your rocket names as possible from your graveyard. So the number of times that, you know, you're given the opportunity to just soul charge 3 dragons from your graveyard while simultaneously popping your opponent's monster is just ridiculous. This card's so good, and this card is also how you're able to continue to make negates after you get Nibiru'd. So this card kind of is your insurance policy against Nibiru. Very good card, definitely think you have to play it. We played 1 IP Masquerena. This was kind of a last minute include for me in the deck list. This was either an Apollo or another Sphere or something, but at the last minute I said, you know, I should probably be playing IP Masquerena, and I'm really glad I did because IP into Unicorn came up several times for me throughout the event, and it's just so good being able to have a generic Link 2 that has diagonal pointing arrows. So very glad that I played IP. We obviously play the Union Carrier for the Buster Lock. This is just the win condition in the deck. Very strong card. I'm very glad that it's banned in the TCG. And then we played Unicorn and Access Code Talker. Unicorn obviously comboing with IP Masquerena if you set that up, and Access Code Talker for the Unicorn into Access Code to go for game. Pretty much how I won all my games. So that was the deck that I played for this event. It did very well for me, so very glad that I played this deck, and I will quickly go over my teammates' 2 decks. So our team captain Shuckle played Virtual World. They played 3 Maxi, 3 Ash, 1 Nyan, 3 Lulu, 3 Gigi, 3 Lao, 3 Lili, 3 Nibiru, 2 Foolish Good, 3 Kowloon, 3 Prosperity, 2 Chenglong, 2 E-Tele, 3 Imperm, 2 Chuche, 1 Janwu. Fairly standard list. They didn't have any comments for me, except that their extra deck was a little bit messed up. They played 1 Charge Warrior, 1 Coral, 1 Crystal Wing, 1 Cloud Castle, 1 Chaofang, 1 Vermilion, 1 Ravencroc, 1 Shen, 1 Zulkin, 1 Breaksword, 1 Gossip Shadow, 1 Ptolemy, 1 Fan, 1 VFD, and 1 Zeus. If you notice, they're not playing the Synchro 6 Virtual World Zhuzha. They kind of forgot that the card existed when they were building this deck list, so they did say to take out the Gossip Shadow and put that in, but otherwise a fairly standard Virtual World list. And then we also had a Prank Kid player, my teammate Lundrity, played a kind of a budget Prank Kid list. They didn't have Access Code Talker or Unicorn, so so they played a little bit of a budget version of the deck, but the deck worked out pretty well for them. So definitely no complaints there. They played 3 Fanzi, 3 Lampsy, 3 Dropsy, 3 Roxy, 3 Maxi, 3 Ash, 3 Nibiru, 3 Polymerization, 1 Monster Reborn, 3 Desires, 3 Prank Kids Place, 1 Prank Kids Pranks, 3 Forbidden Droplet, 2 Pandemonium, 3 Imperm. They played 2 Rocket Ride, 1 Weather Washer, 1 Battle Butler, 1 Totally Awesome, 3 Meow Mew, 1 Cerberus, 1 Phoenix, 3 Doodle, 1 Bow Wow, and a Moral Sword. So they did mention that their list was a little bit of a budget version of the deck, because just built with whatever they had on them, but the deck did very well for them. And you know, Battle Butler is a little bit strong, so you know, very good, very solid list. Now, I did mention at the start of the video that I would be showing you guys my top 16 match. Let's hop right into that, you guys. If you are still here with the video, drop me a comment letting me know that you've made it this far, or drop the video a like since you are clearly enjoying it. But you guys are not ready for this, because this was an absolute crazy match, and I think you guys need to see this. Okay, so hopping into this replay, I did have to record this during the top 16 match, because if I didn't, I would not be able to save the replay afterward with how Master Duel works. So you will be able to see my opponent's hand, and we see that they are on the Bird Up deck. This is the first time that we played against Bird Up in the tournament, and it was in our top 16. So our opponent's going to go for Cobalt Sparrow here, and they're going to use their Cobalt Sparrow. We're going to chain Gamma, hoping that maybe they won't be able to play because they search that Sapphire Swallow. But they do normal summon the Nervall, they summon out the Sapphire Swallow, and go for Wagtail. So they're going to be able to combo us here. We only have this Dark Ruler on our hand, and if you look at our hand looks really strong until you realize that we actually don't play without a normal summon. So I'm sitting here telling my teammates at this time, like, you know, I have Dark Ruler for my opponent's board. I know that because I'm familiar with the Bird Up deck, that I can play through everything that they have. I can play through everything they do, only if I draw a normal summonable card. And as you can see too, our opponent does have a Nibiru in their hand. So this is definitely kind of a tough spot for us, though it is made a lot better by having that Dark Ruler. But we do need to draw a normal summon here, because they're going to be ending on the Utopic Draco Futures, the Double Dragon Lords, and as we see in a minute, they summon the Barrier Statue. So we do draw Safer, which is huge. Probably the best normal summon we could have drawn, because we use Safer to pitch the Destrudo out of our hand. We go for Striker Dragon, and we get the Nocto. We use the Nocto to special summon here. Now, I have no way of knowing my opponent has Nibiru, because we Dark Rulered our opponent. They have the Double Dragon Lords, and it's giving them the ability... It's giving them a prompt every single time I make a play. So I have no way to know that they have a Nibiru in their hand, but I kind of get suspicious. I get a little bit suspicious here. So I start thinking to myself, what can I do to play around a potential Nibiru? So I start playing this. I use the Pisty. I get back my Safer. I'm trying to shuffle around my resources. I go for the Rocket Tracer, and I go for Chaotic Magical here. So I want to mill some cards. I know that if they have a Nibiru, they're going to wait for me to summon a Savage Dragon or go to my battle phase. So I'm going to make this Pepega, and we're going to mill some good cards. We hit the Levianeer, we hit a Chaos Space, we hit Synchron, and we hit Absolrouter. So Absolrouter is going to add me a Tracer here, which is nice, but it's not going to matter because we're going to use our Boot Sector from the graveyard. Milling that Synchron, though, is actually really good for us, because now we can summon back both Tracer and Synchron without having to Dark Lock ourselves to get Hot Red. So I'll go into the Hot Red here and make a Savage Dragon. I'll trigger the Savage Dragon, and they will chain Nibiru. And now we will see why I'm so insistent that you play Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon in your Dragon Link deck, even if you're not playing Black Metal Dragon. So we get Nibiru'd, and we summon out the Red Eyes Darkness Metal. We get back the Hot Red. We summon our Levianeer, ripping the Barrel Canary out of our opponent's hand, and then we'll go for our Union Carrier. We'll use our Union Carrier and our Wyver Burster, so the Wyver Burster will get us Collapse, and we will set up the Buster Lock. Now our opponent has to play through a Buster Lock and a Hot Red, which obviously they can't. They top deck Nervall, and they just crash into our 15,000 attack Nibiru token to OTK themselves. So GG to our opponent, but I wanted to show that game off because I think that that game really shows off what Dragon Link is capable of, and I really want to show off not only how Red MD can be used to help you play through Nibiru, but I also wanted to show off that you can still set up a really intimidating board through a Nibiru and just really completely lock your opponent out of the game if you have that suspicion that your opponent might have a Nibiru in their hand, and you recognize that you do not have to dark lock yourself all the time in order to make a crazy board. That's about all that I have for you guys, though. GG to my opponent, GG to my teammates as well. I'm very happy with how they did this weekend. I'm very proud of them. They played very well this weekend, and you know, all of us kind of just went in with kind of a for fun attitude with this event, and we ended up doing very well. So very happy with how that did. But that's about all I have for you guys today. If you are proud of how I did this weekend, drop this video a like. And if you would like to see me do well at other tournaments in the future, consider subscribing to the channel so that you will know when I do well. The channel has been growing a lot recently, and I want you to be a part of that growth. But that's about all I have for you guys today. So I hope you did enjoy this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video.